and gentlemen, what's going on? My name is Dananu, and I'm the man with black privilege. And with this video here, we're going to be reviewing Daredevil Season 3. And let me just get this right out the gate here. I don't think this was the greatest season. I think in my personal favorite is probably Season 2 and then Season 1. But this was not bad by any means. This was still great. This was still good. I'm gonna try to keep this short since I tend to ramble on for about a half hour. But for the most part, the season was pretty good. You had a lot of crisis of faith type stuff in it, and I guess they're pulling from those older Daredevil comic books where that used to be a thing with his character. In that regard, him not killing people falls a whole lot more line into his faith and stuff as a Catholic, that kind of sort of thing. And it's not as, let's say, as personal as, let's say, like Batman is, where it's like, oh, I'm just not killing people because it's the wrong thing to do, you know, or he feels like it's gonna, you know, he's gonna turn into a villain if he starts doing that. With Daredevil, how they did it back in the day, it's more along the line of, you know, if he killed people, that will turn him against his faith and his religion, and that's like a cornerstone of his character. But you had a lot of play on that, because then as the writers make the stories, you can put him in interesting situations where should he kill somebody or not? You know, like you're trying to stop this bad guy, things like that, and nothing's working, so let me just go out here and kill him. And with that, that's pretty much the crux behind the whole season. It wasn't Kingpin, so to speak. It wasn't, I think they even had Bullseye show up. But Bullseye, I will say this, they kind of changed his origin from the comic books, because I think in the comic books they had like two origins for his character. One was one from back in the day, and the other was like a retcon one that they came out with years later. And this had a couple things I remember recognizing. You know, like I remember like the baseball thing, but with this here, they kind of changed it up a little bit and kind of made Bullseye instead of just coming right out of the gate like, oh, I'm this assassin guy, or I went into the military, I became an assassin. Instead of just going that route, it's along the lines of like, no, he's this crazy ass dude who is trying to stay on the straight and narrow, even though that's not who he is, if that makes sense. And all the good cornerstones that he's been having in his life, his therapist, his job, that kind of sort of thing, keeps getting fucked up. And he gets exploited by Kingpin. I don't want to give that away, but he gets exploited in some kind of way as a Kingpin. That's why he goes after Daredevil, things like that. They never really explain why he's so good at throwing stuff, but I guess, you know, it's something they don't really have to do. I mean, they could bullshit a reason in there, but that's kind of sort of how, you know, how he was in the comic books either. It's just he was just nasty as shit when it came to throwing objects like playing cards, toothpicks. I remember one old comic book where he threw like a paper airplane across the roof and almost hit Daredevil with it. Threw a toothpick like what was it, 100-something yards or something, and ended up killing somebody. Like he would do some stupid stuff in the comic books when it came to his throwing ability. And in this, he did not disappoint. I was kind of curious to see how they were gonna do his character, because as soon as they was, you know, doing the whole, oh, Daredevil's going around killing people, but it wasn't Daredevil, I was like, okay, that's probably Bullseye dressing up as him, because that has happened in the comic books a couple times. And I was kind of worried that they were going to just make Bullseye like, oh, let me just throw knives and, you know, that kind of sort of thing. But no, in this, you had him throwing like what, playing cards, kitchenware. Like anytime you see like they had the first fight scene, like when they first fought, right? And when it would get to like the hand-to-hand sequences, Daredevil would just beat his ass. But then like he would knock him back or something like that. Like dude could hold his own, don't get me wrong. Bullseye could definitely hold his own, but he wasn't on that Daredevil level. And when they would like, he would knock him back, and then it was like, then they started playing a game of cat and mouse, where he would pick up like, you know, they were in like an office setting, so he could pick up staplers, mail openers, like he picked up a fucking monitor and threw it at his ass at one time, I swear. And like he had like a shopping list of items that he could use to, you know, throw people. And you got to remember, when you have somebody with an ability like that, right? Even though it's incredibly stupid and simplistic, like, oh, I don't have no superpowers, but I can throw this really good. Anything that you can put your hands on becomes a weapon to him. And that's essentially what happened throughout this whole series. They showed him in that office setting, or at another time, he was going back into his apartment and he was like, you know what, I think somebody may be in there. Instead of drawing his gun, he went to like a nearby chandelier and pulled some of the glass shards off of it and started throwing them as bullets. And some of the stuff he was doing, even with guns in the episodes here, he would like ricochet bullets off of walls to hit people and stuff like that. So he was doing some nasty stuff when it came to his accuracy. Really appreciated that. I wish they'd have dove a little bit more into his character and like his psychological break, kind of like how they did with the Punisher in season 2. But I guess they wanted to focus more of the season on Daredevil and his crisis of faith, and tying that into, let's say, killing the Kingpin. They could make they made a really great story out of that. A lot of the side stuff I didn't really care for. Like, I mean, you can't have Daredevil be the only guy on the show. I wish he was, but you still got Foggy, you still got the other chick. They kind of told a little bit more about the other chick's backstory. It didn't get as deep as the comics, you know, because I think she became a drugged out porn star. But this was kind of, I can't say it wasn't as bad, but it was more into the drug side of things. But she, you know, was a druggie, and, you know, she wasn't on that crackhead level yet, but she fucked her own life up, essentially. And they kind of play into that a little bit. So you get to know a little bit more of her backstory. Foggy, they didn't really do a whole lot with. It was just be the lawyer. He had a little bit of family drama when Kingpin tried to hustle his family and things like that, but that really didn't go anywhere or do anything. It was more along the lines of like, look, we got to take down Kingpin, and that's pretty much where his character was. Everybody else, I think they introduced this new FBI guy who was like the police face in the show, you know, to where it's one of those things where it's like, okay, you have to see their side of things. And they introduced this one Indian guy who was like the FBI agent who gets to talk to Kingpin and try to get him to talk, things like that. That progresses into introducing Bullseye as a character because he's an FBI agent, things like that. So that whole storyline with that guy and the Kingpin, I think that could have been a little bit more in depth. It seems like it was there for just to have another dynamic to the show, and I get it, it was fine, but I wish it was more about Daredevil, Kingpin, and Bullseye. And granted, it was like that they were the main pillars of the story, but I just wish it was just about them and not everybody else, you know. But a lot of things that this had that I did like was, I liked that this had Kingpin wearing the white with the ascot with the rose. Like that a whole lot. I liked they brought his wife back, and his wife was like, oh look, you know, I like your brutal side and things like that. He got the people to be on his side in this. I like that because that's how it is in the older Spider-Man and Daredevil comic books. Whenever they fight Kingpin, they know he's dirty, they know he's a criminal, Kingpin, but they can't never prove shit, so they can't never lock him up because he's that good. He's like trying to lock up Lex Luthor or something like that. Although I think Lex is on a whole different level. But it's one of those things where it's like, by them showing that in the show, it's like, okay, I know exactly where they're pulling from with this. So as a fan of those older comic books and stuff, I really like that a lot. I wish they'd have got more grandiose with it though. Like it seems like, and I don't know, maybe it's just me, but it seems like the story kind of hovered around, like once Kingpin got out of the jail and was on house arrest, it's like they never did anything else besides him being like in this apartment building, you know, and being in like this high-rise apartment. As Kingpin as a character, I know he has to grow to that point, but I want him to get to that like old school Kingpin level where like I want him to walk in a room and it'd be like just a desk inside of this big ass high-tech room where he runs his criminal empire from. I know we got to get there, but that's what I want at the end of the day. And they're putting him in like this apartment building and stuff. I was like, that's not Kingpin. You know, I want to see Kingpin walk down a really long hall that has a bunch of really rich stuff in it, and have like a small wooden desk that he conducts his business. And I want him to yell and pound his fist on the desk, you know, and yell on a monitor screen when something ain't going his plan, or break a monitor or something. Like, that's what I want. And in this, it's like they didn't have none of that. But still a great Kingpin thing. I mean, the story's pretty much all about him. There's no side plots. I was kind of worried they was gonna bring the Hand back in this. They never did that, thank God. I was kind of worried they was gonna jump back into the well, where's Elektra? You know, because she was with him when the building fell on him at the end of Defenders, and that was only in like the first episode where he was like, oh, where's Elektra? She was with me when the building fell on me, and they never touched on it again, and she never showed up. Thankful for that, because I'm tired of seeing that chick. You know. They had a few instances. The hallway fight in this was done damn good. It was like a prison sequence. Loved it. It was probably on par with the first season, because I think the second season, I think they gave it to the Punisher, but it was good. I think in some ways it was better, but in some ways it wasn't as better as season 1's hallway fight scene. I'm trying to think of other things that was really good. They had him rocking the old costume in this. Nice throwback and everything. You know, he didn't wear the red suit that he had during Defenders and everything else. Hell, I think in fact Bullseye would have worn more often in the show than he ever did, because I don't think he never puts it on. The ending to me felt kind of weird. It felt kind of. This was 13 episodes, so this wasn't like the Luke Cage. What was it? Luke Cage season 2? They had like 10 episodes or something like that. So they didn't do the whole 10 episode thing with this. They gave it the full 13. But the ending to me kind of felt. It didn't feel rushed, but it's one of those things where it's like, okay, they try to go after Kingpin, they fail at like 2 or 3 things, or Kingpin kills a couple people, so they can't go and arrest them, and then it's like, okay, well, I'm just gonna go in there and fucking kill him. So it's like it felt like the third act could have resolved a little bit better. Like, you know, if they had maybe like 1 or 2 more episodes, I feel like they could have fleshed that out a little bit more. Because it seems kind of redundant, because if Daredevil can just bust in there and just beat his ass and kill him, then it's like, kind of, well, what's really the point? Why is he such a hard target? And that's the whole thing. Like, I like this season, don't get me wrong. I loved how intricate and intelligent and tactful, you know, this season was, which how Daredevil was trying to come at Kingpin, and how Kingpin was setting everybody up and playing Bullseye and all this kind of sort of stuff. Like that a lot. But it just felt like the last couple episodes was more about, oh, let's bring in Kingpin's wife to complete his character, as it were, right? And then they went from bringing her in to like the ending of the season was like real quick. It was like 1 or 2 episodes, and it's like, that's like when he wore white when he was he was getting married at the time, right? So that was the whole thing, was like he was becoming the Kingpin from the comic books, and they go from that marriage right into like the end of the season, and show the ending finale and all of that stuff. And I just wish that they'd have had a couple more episodes to kind of have him get married, get settled in as the Kingpin. We get to see a little bit more things that he's capable of in that criminal underground type role, and then have some kind of an ending where Daredevil comes after him or something, you know. But they kind of just roll that right on into the ending, and it's just like, it wasn't bad. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying it was bad at all, but I just wish it was done just a little bit better. Like, I don't know, maybe they had too much story, and maybe they had to flesh that out a little bit more, or maybe they got caught up setting up Bullseye. Maybe if Bullseye was there instead of being the Indian guy, as like the main FBI guy that gets used and everything, I think that would have played out better, because then you wouldn't have had, let's say, you know, the cops side of the storyline. You know, you wouldn't have had him and his family and getting screwed over. I wish that would have been Bullseye's character minus the family. You know, but then how would he coerce Bullseye if he had a family and all that? So I don't know how to do it. I'm not a writer. I don't work for Marvel or Netflix. It's not my job to figure out these things. But I wish it was done a little bit better. Again, not saying it's not bad, not by any means. But I just wish they could have wrapped it up a little bit better. There's no saving the world. There's no saving New York in this, which it really didn't need. It was more of a personal story between Daredevil, Kingpin, and Daredevil with his crisis of faith. And I think that works because that's what the core of the character is based on. I think this was a great season. I'm hoping they get a season 4 because that's what I'm about to talk about in my next commentary video is how Marvel or how I'm thinking Marvel is taking their stuff off Netflix and putting it on their Disney's own streaming service. But we'll get to that in the next commentary. So my name is Denanu, and I'm the man with the biggest and the most blackest privilege on YouTube. And I will see you guys in the next one. Peace out.